Hi, welcome to another edition of Dr. Chris's Ultimate Vegan Kitchen. So, summer is here, yay, and a lot of people get excited to crack open a cold beer. Well, I get excited to crack open a cold bottle of kombucha. So, kombucha, there's been a lot of hype about it lately, and it seems to be the in thing. And for me, I started making my own because I can have control over the ingredients that I'm putting in, and I think that it tastes better than the store-bought ones. So, and it's certainly a lot cheaper to make your own too. So if you're like me and you really start to love kombucha and you're drinking a few bottles a day, then this is definitely for you. So don't be afraid. I'm going to make it nice and simple. So the ingredients you're going to need are some tea. I like to use green tea. And if you use a tea bag, you're going to want to break off the tab that comes with it, the paper tab. You can use loose tea and use a muslin bag with it. But for convenience today, I'm using bag tea. You're going to also need some sugar. And you can use regular cane sugar if you like, the regular white sugar. I prefer the organic cane sugar, evaporated cane juice. You can get the cheap version, it doesn't really matter. And this way you're using less processed sugar, which is going to be better for you. Just one other note on the tea. I'm using green. You can use black tea, but you don't want to use any herbal teas. And the amount of tea you're using is going to be based on how much tea you're making. If you're making a gallon of tea, then you're only going to need 1 or 2 tablespoons of tea, and the equivalent in a tea bag. The more you make, the more you're going to need. And for the quantities that you'll need, I have a ratio that I put on my website at kidchiropractic.com, nutrition and recipes page. So if you go to that, I'll have the whole recipe there with the proportions. But think about 1 gallon is about 1 to 2 tablespoons of tea, and you're going to also be using about a cup of sugar, give or take. Really, you start to make your own, and then you can see how much sugar that you like as the kombucha culture metabolizes the sugar and ferments it. I like mine not so sweet, so for me I don't tend to add so much sugar. So let's go over to the stove. So I've got a stainless steel pot here, and I'm using filtered water. If you don't have a filtration system in your house, you're going to want to use distilled water, or at least highly filtered water. You don't want any impurities in it. I'm going to add my tea bags. And I am going to add, for the amount of tea bags that I have in here, I'm going to add 3.5 cups of sugar. So I'm actually making this for me. I just bottled my kombucha last night. And right now I'm actually brewing up. This is going to make at least 4.5 gallons. At least. Maybe even closer to 5. So really, it is as simple as boiling tea. I'm going to put my top on a little bit of skew. And a little note on the pan, you want to use something that's stainless steel or glass. And this is a pretty cheap stainless steel pot that I have here. It's not one of the triple poly-coated, and really, I pretty much use this one just for making kombucha. If you notice the size, it's really small. So as I said, I'm making enough kombucha for about 4.5 gallons, and I didn't want to have a big huge pot around to make it. So the way I do it is I put in a very concentrated form of tea and sugar, so it makes that sweetened tea. It's very concentrated, and then I pour it into my kombucha pots and dilute it with some filtered water so it evens itself out. So this way I don't have to have big huge amount of things that I already have in my kitchen. I'm going to take my tea mixture to a boil, turn down the heat, and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then I'm going to turn it off and let it cool. So sometimes I'll do this overnight so I have it ready to put into my kombucha pot in the morning, or for this instance I'm going to do this and then leave it until a couple of hours down the line. I wanted to show you a few of the different vessels that you can use. This is a ceramic jug that I got online, and it had the spigot already attached. You can also use the picnic jug style of iced tea jugs. This is a gallon. This one I believe is about 2.5 gallons. And the first time you use your pot, you want to clean it out, and then what you do is you take some white vinegar and just put it inside of the vessel and swish it around and dump it out. So that starts the whole process of basically sterilizing the container for doing the kombucha. On top here you can see that I've got a handkerchief, and I actually like to have it doubled because then it keeps the fruit flies from coming in. I just want to show you the culture. You're going to start with a culture and find a friend who's making kombucha, or you can go online and get a culture. And once the culture starts getting a little thick, this is actually starting to get a bit thick, then you can just peel off a piece and give it to somebody else, or start another container. So I'd empty these out ahead of time and put them into jars, and I'm just going to stick that back on top. So here's some of the bottles that I did earlier. You put them into glass, and you can use any type of bottle that you want. And these I added some lemon juice to, and these I'm about to add some ginger juice to. So you can add whatever you like to it. I generally brew my kombucha about a week in the pot. Depends on how hot it is. If it's a little hotter, definitely a week. If it's a little colder in the winter, it can even be up to 2 weeks. So again, you have to sort of just see how it tastes. I'll take a little out, or I'll use a pH test strip and see what the pH is. And if it tastes about right, then I'll bottle it and add whatever I'm adding, or sometimes I won't add anything. And then I'll let these sit about another week. And that's what really works well with me, so see what works for you. When my sweetened tea is done, I'm going to pour the sweetened tea in here, and as you can see, there's still a little bit of liquid, some kombucha down in the bottom here. And that's the starter that gets things going. If you're just beginning, you need to also get some starter tea. You can get it from the person who's giving you the kombucha, or just go to the store and buy the commercial kombucha and use that. You're going to need about 1 bottle of the commercial kombucha. It's about 16 ounces per gallon that you're making. Okay, so that's all for now. When the sweetened tea is done, I'll show you how you put it in. Hi, so it's the next day, and as I said, you can leave your kombucha overnight to cool down. And sometimes I might not even get to it the next day. It might even be the day after, and because it's going to ferment, that's okay. It doesn't really, you don't want to leave it too long, but if you can't get to it straight away, then it's alright. So I have to take out my tea bags. Of course, you want to make sure your hands are clean, and I just scoop them out. Now we're going to put the sweetened tea mixture inside the pot. So I try to keep them covered as long as I'm not using them, because the fruit flies will be a-coming. So I'm going to dump in about half of this, and there went a few tea bags. If you see more tea bags, just take them out as you go, and I'm going to have to go fishing for those. If you're splitting this up between pots, I like to put in as much sweetened tea as the level of the previous kombucha. So the previous level was about here, so this is about double that. And I need a little bit more here. So that is getting to be looking about right. Then I'm going to fill this pan up with my filtered water and just make up the difference with the sweetened tea that's basically concentrated in there, and then we're going to fill these totally up. I'm just adding some filtered water, and I will keep adding until I have completely filled the pot. After you pour in all the water, you're going to see that the culture is going to be on the top. So if for some reason it's sinking, that is not a good sign. You want it to be on the top. Shoo those pesky fruit flies out of the way. And then I like to double my handkerchief. You can use any type of muslin or cotton so that the kombucha culture can breathe, but you don't want to use cheesecloth, it's too thin. I like to double it because it does tend to keep the fruit fly population down, and I like to put 2 rubber bands on because those pesky things can get underneath things. And your handkerchiefs are going to get stained. I mean, that is just part of kombucha life. Even after you wash them, they're going to be stained with the tea. So don't worry so much about that. I'm getting all the folds out. So now you're going to let your kombucha sit for at least a week. As I said, test it out. You can just take a little out of the, You're going to let your kombucha sit for 1 week, and you can try it after that and see how it tastes to you. Sometimes it's still a little sweet when I bottle it, and then after another week of fermenting, then it's just right for me. So a few things kombucha is really great for. It is chock full of enzymes and probiotics and amino acids, and it has anti-aging benefits because of the antioxidants in the kombucha. So start with a small amount, see how that sits with you. Start with about a glass a day, and then you can always go up from there depending on how you're feeling. And I know when I first started with kombucha, I did about half of the bottle, and that was enough for me. So now I'm drinking a lot more because my body's used to it. So take it slow. So now that you know how great kombucha is for you and how easy it is, go on out and get yourself started today. And after a few weeks, you can sit back, put your feet up, and have a great, yummy glass of kombucha. Yum. Ginger. Cheers.